Hello there, and welcome to 3Spoonies. We're your hosts, Karen, Jo, and Claire. This is episode number 53.5, where we're discussing aids and adaptations in work and the community. Join us as we dive in.
Have you ever had that moment when you realise you're not difficult, you're just different? For so many late diagnosed neurodivergent adults, life up until now has felt like trying to read a map that wasn't drawn for you. At work, at home, even within yourself, the misunderstandings can be exhausting. At Outside the Box, Neurodiverse Coaching and Mentoring, we believe your difference is your brilliance. Our mission is simple: to help you understand yourself, be understood by others, and finally feel supported in the way you need. To get started, download your free Support Needs Wheel, a gentle tool to help you explain what supports you to thrive.
Hello, I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony.
I'm Jo from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Claire from Blackmail Stationery.
And together we're 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. We are once again joined by Aaron Phipps and Melissa Smith. Hello to both of you.
Hi.
Hiya.
Hello. Would you like to just give us a quick recap on who you are and what you do, just in case people can't remember from last week? Aaron, you go first.
Hi, I'm Aaron Phipps. I'm a 3 times Paralympian gold medalist and long-term disabled person.
Hi, I'm Melissa Smith. I own Paws and Ernest, which is a dog enrichment company.
Well, thank you both for being here with us again. I'm just going to pass over to Jo for the questions. Whoosh!
Okay, so this time we are looking at work, community, and future adaptations. So, workplace, do you have any specific adaptations? See, Aaron, I told you that we'd come back to your wheelchair that can take a beating. I don't have actually that much of a specific setup other than my chair. I required a gaming chair that was actually supportive and comfy, so I could sit at for hours while I shout at things and, a big enough screen to see. But I don't think, other than I constantly have to have a fan next to me, I have that much workplace adaptations, as I already work from home and around my illness anyway. So what about you guys?
I'll go jump in if you want. Yeah, I did, because I haven't always been an athlete, and I did have like more traditional jobs back in the day. So I did have adaptations then. I mean, when I say traditional jobs, I did admin-based jobs because I was disabled. I'd have been great as a plumber or an electrician, but as an amputee, that just was above my pay grade. I haven't got the hands for it either. Like the wiring and stuff, I'd have been blowing people up. But yeah, I did, and a lot of it was common sense. It was like, give me a disabled base somewhere I could get my car close by to park, putting a ramp in somewhere. Sometimes I think there was a set of steps that didn't have a ramp, so let's go around the long way. But I was working in the NHS, putting a ramp, that was pretty good. And then just the normal work-based stuff to work at a desk as you would really, and just thinking about the office and moving some bits out the way. But it wasn't anything kind of revolutionary, to be honest with you. I mean, they were really good, and everywhere I worked was always really supportive. I was just doing jobs that didn't support me.
We know that one. We know it well.
Definitely. Yeah, for me, a lot of adaptations have been put in place. My whole business started off being online, so a lot of the stuff that I put in place was stuff that I could do from bed on my phone. How can I kind of adapt the space for that? As time's gone on, that's changed. That's changed into things like, how can I make stuff less heavy for me to carry? How can I kind of decant boxes rather than carrying big boxes here and then also, I think the work from home thing is such a big tool and aid, and it has been. I, in February, took on a part-time job. I was lucky enough to be able to take on something for a couple of days a week, part-time, and they've been amazing at adapting to what I need. I think I've probably had quite a rare experience there, but things like we have a monthly meetup where primarily we work from home, but we then meet up once a month. We actually make sure that they're local to me so that they're easier for me to get to. I tend to have a rest day afterwards so that it's not kind of lots of hours and stuff like that. So there's a lot of adaptations that I think I put in without even really thinking about it. It's just actually starting in February raised a lot of questions for me where I was like, what do I do on a day-to-day basis that makes it easier for me? Because I don't want to go into a role and then all of a sudden just start doing things that I don't realize aren't normal in the workplace as well. So yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting question because I think it's easier to implement changes around the home than it is when you're out and about or at work.
Yeah.
Not so much if you're self-employed, but I still think there's an element of that. But yeah, definitely.
I think it also depends what you do and to what you need to change as well, even if you're self-employed. Because I know we've discussed before when we all started, we were still like, yep, 9 to 5, keep that routine, yada yada. No, it doesn't work for us.
I tried
Karen?
having everything in my when I had my old business that I closed earlier in the year. Was I converted this bedroom to my office, so that I had everything in different levels, and it was all kind of a flowing system. But because it was so kind of, it wasn't heavily manual based, but it kind of is because I'm moving around a lot and it's the up and down, and I'd end up getting distracted and doing like 13-hour days, and then be like, oh, I've not eaten all day, or why am I really tired? Why am I making so many mistakes? Too tired. I need a break. Um, Whereas now with the new business, it's a lot more easier. I can do everything from my laptop, and it's nice because I just get to have fun and design stuff. And then, other than printing out the stickers, I outsource everything else. So I'm just like, well, this is easy. So it makes life a lot easier and more manageable. And I'm trying to stick to certain work times.
You'll get bored and go do some work, as I do.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Karen?
I think the big thing for me was when I was in an office, we used to have a hot desking. So basically, I shared a computer with another person, and I had a physical green dyslexia filter on the monitor that every time I came in the next day would have been physically ripped off. And I got to the point where I put it sort of on a hinge, so you could just lift it over the back of one of these old CRT monitors, and it would still be ripped off every single day to the point that it got absolutely mangled. And it was like, why is this such a point of contention? It was lighting as well. Like I had one of those horrible fluorescent light strips, and I had chronic migraines, and genuinely, I think half of my sick days wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been from that fluorescent light, because it was always after I spent a day in the office with that horrible flickering light. And it's like if they'd switched that to like a normal light bulb or something, genuinely it would have made the world of difference. But they're like, oh, well, don't know why you're making a fuss. And it's like, well, my ability to see is quite important, actually. And it was everything was treated as if it was a bit of an annoyance. Whereas sort of now I'm at home, and there's also much easier things you can do. So there's a program you could buy called Colour Veil that you can download and change the tint on your computer. It can be good for eye strain as well if you find that looking at black text on a white background kind of glares a bit. So I sort of have it as quite a deep green, and I forget it's there. And the only downside to it is sometimes I buy something online and it arrives and it's the wrong colour because I've forgotten that it's a tinted green. It's, that's a downside. But there's loads of things that in the past you would have spent hundreds of pounds for that are now just included. Like on Word, as much as I'm not a Microsoft fan, I will say that their speech to text is quite good. If you just look for the blue microphone, it's quite good at putting the punctuation in as well. It's not 100% perfect, but it's way better than things I spent hundreds of pounds for back in the day. And there's also the immersive reader. So you can switch view, which helps with editing as well, or it can read things to you. Or there's something called Pericles that again will read things for you, and it's all kind of just there now. So there's lots of things. It's much easier to just download, have a play about, and also adapt. So there's different accents, like you can get regional accents now and change the speed of it, because if something's reading too slowly or too quickly, it's no help at all to you. And there's all that stuff that, as I said, used to cost a fortune and you'd need to apply for it. Now it's just like, oh, it's just there. Click, click, click. There we go. But sometimes it's knowing it's there in the first place.
For like adaptations becoming just there and normal, that's always nice. But I used to find I used to call my work from home days when I had a proper job as my mini mental health days, because there was no bright lights, there wasn't constant noise, and I think there was 20 of us in an old church. beautiful building, but there was still all this noise and all this distraction, and I was uncomfortable in the corporate clothing. And it was just overwhelmed all day. And so, yeah, I loved when they said we could work from home 2 days a week. And it's like, great, I can sit in my PJs or, my normal clothing on the sofa at the time, because I obviously didn't have an office at the time, and just do my thing. And it was lovely. So when I changed to being self-employed and working from home full time, I knew what I wanted, which was lovely. Now, obviously, Aaron, you were a Paralympian at doing wheelchair rugby. What were the requirements of that wheelchair?
Gosh. Okay. So when we talk about adaptations here, I was chatting about this in the last episode, but you want to play able-bodied rugby, you buy some boots, a ball, pair of shorts, jock strap if that's your thing, I suppose. Gum shield, it's not that expensive. It isn't. I need a £4,500, £5,000 wheelchair. Some of the titanium chairs now are £10,000, £11,000. So it was hard. I mean, because we were at the top level with GB, it made it easier because we got some funding and bits. But for a lot of club players and that, they were funding these wheelchairs, and you have to have one because everybody's disability is different, and your sizes are different, and your strengths and your weaknesses are different. So you want a chair that plays on your strengths and limits your weaknesses. So I was an amputee. Where I've got my tummy muscles, I'd kneel down in my chair, which would open up my hips, which would make me more maneuverable on court. Whereas if you're paralysed, you don't want that at all because you'd fall out of the wheelchair. So they would put themselves in a real low position and put straps around their middle to hold themselves in, to give them like false trunk, to make them almost less disabled in the wheelchair. But the point is, you're not competitive if you don't do that. So you've got to do it to make yourself competitive. But it was just the cost. And the other issue was you'd get a brand new chair, and if you got something wrong, there wasn't much you could do. So you're spending all this money on a wheelchair that isn't gonna help. You can't go and test drive one. I mean, you can jump in other people's, but it's not the same. So you're guessing. You're like, right, I'm going to try and move these wheels back a little bit, and it takes most people quite a few chairs before they get in. But ours were also really extreme because of the hits. So we had to be able to hit each other, and they had to withstand that force going through. And they were built in a way that, I guess, as the years went on, the chair would break in a point. So they'd put a bit of metal there, and they build it up over a period of time. But yeah, my rugby chair was quite heavy. It was nearly 20 kilos with its wheels on, which for a piece of sports equipment is actually quite heavy. I mean, it's rolling weight, so you're moving, but yeah, they were very specific.
That's like your luggage allowance when you go on holiday.
Yeah.
That's what I can equate that to. And like, I pack a suitcase. So yeah.
But this was a loophole though, because it's like, this one's like work and community. When we travelled, because it was classed as medical kit, we were allowed to take it with us. So you should have seen us. British Airways, we turn up at the airport and they'd have their head in their hands like, what the hell is going on? We're like, right, you got to take it. It's all medical. We need it. We're disabled. And to be fair to them, they get it on the plane. But there'd be, I mean, at times, what 12 on a squad, maybe we take a couple of more players. Our coaches were in wheelchairs, 15, 16 wheelchair users, 15 sports wheelchairs, all our wheel bags, our kit. Then we got like the physio comes with us, the mechanic, we've got all this stuff, and we turn up. Take us bloody forever to get on a plane. But it was they get us all on. And as long as they didn't lose anything, everything was good.
Did you also take a day wheelchair with you as well?
Oh yeah. So we had sports wheelchairs, day wheelchairs, forgot about them. Yeah, because we'd all be in our wheelchairs, we couldn't walk. So off we'd go. And then we'd get the other side and we'd all be trying to get out.
With all your names sewed into the back of them, because like if you get the wrong one, because like I'd imagine on a rugby team, like the variation in people's builds and things as well, like.
Well, it was our equipment, because your chairs, you knew whose everyone's chair was because we all had our own individual chairs, but it was the equipment. Like all the wheels looked very similar. So we'd all have our names on our wheels. It was like your mum had put your name in everything, even as adults.
So when you're back at school.
Write my initials in all my tags and that, because all our kit was the same as well. So, yeah, in terms of adaptations, God, we had some equipment that we took with us.
I can imagine that. It's like, I assume you gave like a warning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Well, we had a team manager, so we were spoiled in that sense because she would deal with stuff for us. I mean, in some ways easier than traveling as a disabled person without a team, because squeaky cock, I mean, if they cock it up, it doesn't look good with, 15 Paralympians, does it? So
Not really, no.
we tended to get really good treatment. Japan was the coolest place. They did it the best. they had these aisle chairs that would get you down the plane, and then they'd get you off the plane. They'd swap the wheels out for these big wheels. They'd make them a bit bigger. Then they'd just wheel you off through the airport. And then there'll be all your wheelchairs and stuff will be waiting for you. They were absolutely amazing.
Oh,
Like if you
wow.
wanted an example of how to do it properly, Japan was the place. But they turn up with like a team of people ready to get you off. Heathrow, when you've got Dave and Bob going, all right, mate, and they're doing their best.
Yeah,
But at Heathrow, they were having
No
meltdowns. I'm like, oh my
procedures.
God, what do we do?
Can we briefly pause for some spoonsful of loveliness? So here's
Of
some
course we
lovely
can.
things from our sponsors.
If you're a neurodivergent entrepreneur who's exhausted by hustle culture, I want you to know there is another way. The Anti-Hustle Hub is a supportive online community for neurodivergent business owners who want to work with their brains, not against them. Inside the hub, we have regular body doubling sessions to help you get things done, gentle group coaching to untangle the overwhelm, and a community of people who genuinely get it. No pressure, no pretending, no toxic productivity. You don't need to push harder, you need the right support. Come and join us inside the Anti-Hustle Hub and build your business in a way that actually feels sustainable. Are you ready to unmask your brilliance and build real confidence? Meet Susie Payton, an ADHD speaker, author, comedian and confidence coach on a mission to make the world better for neurodivergent folks and those who have ever felt less than. Susie combines her lived experience with ADHD, autism, Tourette's and OCD with her comedy skills to challenge outdated perceptions and spark real change. Through playful, empowering coaching and insightful talks, she helps neurodivergent adults ditch self-doubt, quiet the inner critic, and work with rejection sensitivity dysphoria so confidence becomes second nature. Whether you're an individual or an organisation, Susie's approach proves that confidence isn't about changing who you are, it's about trusting who you are. So book a free call with her now to discuss your needs and desires.
Good news, everyone. Our third guest has managed to make it after a little bit of a delay, but she's here. Hurrah! So, Sharon, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, all that sort of good stuff?
Yeah, I'm Sharon Farley-Mason. I am a disabled entrepreneur. I bespoke mobility aids for people with disabilities, that being range from, walking sticks down to the rollators if they like, or the wheelchairs if they like. I was medically discharged in my early 40s from work following a horse riding accident that went wrong years ago. And then I had to have an operation back in 2010 to try and repair the damage. The accident nearly killed me, but I'm still here and I'm obviously here for a reason. So yeah, I try and bring smiles to people's faces and make their day, sad, boring days, to feel a little bit better.
I think that's very admirable.
Thank you.
We did discuss in the first episode of like the boring sort of NHS grey crutches and things are very dull, and it's really nice to see things like the things you make that are a little bit more interesting and actually look fun.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. I do custom orders as well. People, if they like, certain colours on, I'm quite happy to do that.
So the first question I asked for this episode, which we were just coming to the end of, so I'll ask you it. Do you have any specific workplace adaptations to allow you to do what you do?
Yeah, I do. I've got a chair that is I'm not sat in it at the moment because I'm in my bedroom at the moment, but it's one of those. But yeah, I've got an office chair that has handles and is specially, to me. Orthopedics gave me that, and I have a desk that rises and lowers so I can get to things as well. It's an electric table, which is really good. But that's about it, really.
Well, I discovered for work-wise, we don't, other than Aaron's wheelchair of doom, we don't have that many specific things. It tends to be how we work rather than specific adaptations. So We actually briefly touched on travel. Now, I haven't travelled really, not out of the country since I became disabled. I'm not looking forward to that. Mainly because I'm not sure how I'll cope with the plane. But, and as we discussed last time, there is a ranking of different travel options. Buses are a no-no because it vibrates too much. A
Yeah.
car is best, but only on one particular seat, because otherwise I get car sick. Trains, trams, things like that, it depends. So do
But
you
I don't-
guys use any specific travel adaptations?
A wheelchair, usually. I get a wheelchair at the airport, usually fly out from Manchester. So I get and I make sure they have a wheelchair waiting for me when, although I can walk, walking any distance, as everybody will know, is painful. So I use crutches. But at the airports, I use a wheelchair. I travel by train, but I use my crutches apart from getting to the train in, let's think, Euston's good. Euston's very good actually, usually, if you book it. And Manchester as well. It's going a bit iffy, Manchester, to be honest. They're getting really, really funny with taking this beep 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 machine down the line of the line of people, because they say there's too many people around, so we can't use it. So then, yeah, you have to walk, and that's painful.
What about the rest of you?
I've got a few different ones. Wheelchair when I go to the airport, definitely. And I tend to use kind of airport assistance. If I'm using trains, then I tend to get train assistance. I've been very lucky with that because either they've been great or I've had someone traveling with me, so it's been fine for that. Um, on a smaller level though, in the car, I get really bad travel sickness, so I have the adaptation on my phone that does the movement blobs. Do we know about this? There's like
Like
big
to.
spots on your phone that follows the movement of the car to stop travel sickness or to prevent travel sickness if you're looking at your phone. Um, and I find that really, really helpful, especially when I'm having to look at kind of maps or stuff like that. So I use that quite a lot. Fold up walking stick, I tend to have with me all of the time in the car, in my bag, wherever it might be, so that if I need to, I can get it out really easily. But a big thing for me, I think, is planning ahead and speaking. If I'm going to visit somewhere, speaking to them, what are the accessibility options and stuff like that. A bit like when we're part of the SBS, obviously, and they have an event every year. I always speak to them before and try and get some form of adaptations. They normally reserve a seat for me and stuff like that, which massively helps and reduces the impact of it. And I think for me, with my mindset, if I know that when I'm there, they're going to understand and I'm not going to have to explain what's going on, then that just pulls the stress out of it a little bit more. There have been times where it's been awful. There was one hotel when I was only able to get around in a wheelchair where they said they were accessible, but they were really old wooden ramps. And you had to go and find a member of staff every time you wanted. Every single part of the building was on different levels. So my friend would have to go and find a member of staff to get them to move the ramp out and around the hotel. It was an absolute nightmare. And by the end of it, by the time we went to go down for dinner, I was like, I'm just going to walk down in my walking stick. And the looks I got from everyone in that dining hall where they were like, you were just in a wheelchair and you've just walked down 3 steps with a walking stick. What in the world are you doing? Like, I was like,
We all know able-bodied people don't believe ambulatory wheelchair users exist.
it was so new as well. Like, it was one of the first times I'd finally been able to get out of the house. And that was just terrifying. So it put me off for quite a long time afterwards, actually. But now it's just planning ahead is my biggest thing that I do when I go out and about.
I agree with that. And I always take somebody with me. I'm never out on my own.
I'm going to mirror a lot of what Sharon and Melissa have said already. Yeah, it would be the things like planning ahead, train booking, assistance. Obviously, I've got a car with hand controls, so I can drive out my legs on, which is really important because otherwise I wouldn't be able to drive my car. But I think it is the full planning as well, like making sure something's going to be okay. But then it's almost so the cost that goes with that. So if I go to London, I'd struggle to get on and off the tube. So, I'm jumping in black cabs, which gets expensive really quickly. If I'm going somewhere I need to be there early in the morning, I'm going to have to drive. Then because I won't be able to get the train. There's lots of changes and things. You know, I'll go up and get a hotel the night before. So things like that are the things. It's probably the things that people don't see. It's like it breaks my heart when Sharon says I have to go with someone, because that's, you know, you shouldn't have to, but you do. You know, and I think we make do as disabled people who are kind of positive around it. But is that right? I don't know, and it's tough, isn't it? It's knowing them things. I mean, imagine if Melissa was in that hotel on her own and her friend wasn't able to go and get the staff, you'd have been absolutely up the Swanee, wouldn't you? And
Yeah.
that's a little bit rubbish. So most of the time I'm okay, but there are on occasions where I think this just isn't going to work. What the hell am I going to do? Particularly if it's a train journey with loads of changes. I just won't bother because you know something's going to go wrong. I think that makes it tough.
I mean, I tend to not do train journeys with lots of changes. It just makes everything so much harder. And yeah, every time we go away somewhere, I have to have an extra night. Otherwise, I don't have the energy for whatever I'm there to do. I mean, me and Karen found that at the very first SBS event we did, we were absolutely skint, could not afford a hotel for the night. So we got up at stupid o'clock in the morning, went on an early train, got there, did the full day, and then came back. I think by 10 a.m. I was in absolute agony. By lunchtime, I just wanted to curl up into a little ball and cry. I was in that much pain and so tired. We didn't do that the year after. We did.
When you said about going the year after when I came, it was just like, I am not traveling on the day. Like,
Yeah, you did that the day.
I was like, I'm coming the day before. That's been
I think it's
done.
also all the comfort things you need. Like I'm really bad at changes of temperature. So like I've got a cool towel for in the summer that you sort of wet and tie around your neck so it sort of evaporates and keeps you nice and cool. Like heat packs or sometimes sort of weighted things. Or I've got an eye mask that can include white noise and things, because otherwise I won't sleep in a hotel, and I know I won't. And often those are the things that aren't easy for places to supply. Although I do feel things like weighted blankets shouldn't be that much of a luxury item, because those, it's very easy to change the cover on it and pass it on to the next person, sort of thing. I can understand hotels not having individual eye masks and things necessarily, but it would be nice if there was a bit more variety in sort of what was available in terms of sort of beddings or toiletries or things, because sort of these can be the things where you find you're ending up lugging around bags full of stuff if you've got sort of allergies to things or anything like that. It can be a whole drama, and then you're lugging around stuff possibly when you can barely lug yourself around, to try and make it so it's as unhorrible as possible.
Shopping trolley, I told you. Take a shopping trolley full of stuff.
It doesn't really work if you're in a wheelchair, though.
No, it doesn't.
Somewhat going on a tangent, but kind of going off what you've said, Karen. A very similar experience for me is when I'm out and about, I get frustrated by how easy it could be for companies to make adaptations, but they haven't put it in place. So, for instance, trade shows and stuff like that, I go to quite a lot of, well, when I can, trade shows and exhibitions. When I was in a wheelchair, I'd go and they'd have either stands that were on platforms, so I couldn't get up onto them, or stands that had almost the poser tables, so the tall standing tables with the products on top. Well, I can't see those products, so all I'm looking at is just the white table. And I'm like, how easy would it be when you're thinking of setting up your stand to A, not have a little tiny step around it? There's no need for that. And to B, just at least have some of the display duplicated lower down. If you want high tables, duplicate it lower down as well. And I think when I'm out and about, I find myself getting frustrated when I'm going places and it's not being adapted. And it's something that I put into the decision making every day now with Pause and Earnest. We did our first show a couple of years ago, and I was like, right, what's the recommended width for wheelchair users so they can get around my stand? I pay extra to have a bigger stall, even though we're still a really small business, so that I can have my products in, but wheelchair users can still access the stand the way that everyone else can. And I think it's things like that that people don't even think about.
Right, it is. I agree with that totally, wholeheartedly. But the trouble is, with some of these exhibitions, especially the big exhibitions that you go to, you know, you're talking like another £1,000 to make or more to make your stand bigger just so you can get in, because
Mhm.
they don't have they have like a line that you can't cross, and you've got your box and that's it, you know. I'm glad to see, this year I went to a major show. I was, you know, there as a business this time, and luckily there was no steps to our stand, so, you know, people could get up.
People have to pay more. People have to pay more for the platform. So I was at a
Right,
show last week at the NEC, and I was speaking to someone. I was like, "Why do people have those
yeah,
platforms to get onto the stand?" And
yeah,
apparently, it was £1,000
doing
more per stand to have it. But all it's
no,
doing is making your stand inaccessible for people.
That and for exhibitors as well. I went to one and there was no space at all between. This was with stalls, but there was no space between them. So if you wanted to get behind it, you had to go all the way along the row, and there was not space to do that. And it was things like you weren't told in advance where you were going to be, and they were like, "Oh, your name will just be on the table." And it's like there's there's 3 different halls rather. One of them
Wow.
is upstairs. You expect me to
well,
go around all of them to look for my name, and they didn't even have a list by the door, or it was very, very, very poor. But like once you were on the stand, you couldn't really get off without other people taking their stands apart. Was
yeah, gosh, that is a hard one. That it really is a hard one.
Yeah, we had a stand recently in August, and literally they started dismantling the stand before we'd even left. So to get out of the building, we were having to step over like part metal, like beams on the floor and stuff like that. And it's like, if I was still in my wheelchair, or if I was quite as unstable as I have been in the past, I wouldn't have been able to navigate out of that hall in a safe way. But they'd already started dismantling it. And it's just, I think sometimes people don't know what they don't know. And I think
mm,
if there's more advocacy for it and there's more discussions about how you can make things more accessible, I'd like to think that if it didn't cost them much more, there are some businesses that wouldn't do it if it cost anything more, but if it didn't cost them much more, what's the harm in doing it? Because you're only making it more accessible to everyone that's out there, and I think that's so important.
yeah, I think it's like you said, consideration sort of at all levels. Because again, I was at a different exhibition where someone had taken over the 3 disabled parking spaces to put his van in because he didn't want to have to walk any further. It's like, well, there's people who now can't get into the building because you've taken up the only space with a ramp. And it's like, oh, well, I'd have to walk all the way around. It's like, but you can walk later. I was already slightly bitter at this point. You may pick up on this, but he'd got like a big marquee, which was slightly odd indoors with the scale of it. But anywho, and he was obviously used to just throwing things behind the marquee, forgetting there was a row of stands behind him. So I'm chatting to someone, and this box of fried chicken remains is lobbed over the back of this marquee at me. And it's like, a little bit of consideration there might have helped.
I'd have
So
lobbed that
that's
straight back.
something done. That was just someone being a foolish penis, shall we say? So
Definitely.
More polite than me.
Yeah, definitely. I wish, and this is I'm a bit passionate about it, as you can tell. I feel like we're going in the right direction with sustainability in businesses. I feel
mm,
like a lot of businesses now are thinking about, what can I do to make this more sustainable? What can I do to improve this? I wish there was the same thinking in the same direction with accessibility for every business.
Yeah.
Because
mm.
it feels for me like that's happening for sustainability, but it's not happening with accessibility. And it's something that's like, if I could wish upon a star, that's what I would do. Yeah.
I think
I
it's
am
happening
hoping
with.
that will improve though, because like the next generation, like with my scouts, the way they view disability is so much more positive. And so it's not like this person can't do this, it's this is what this person needs.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely innate. It's not someone sat there and said, this is how you should think about this. It's like, right, this is what this person needs. We'll do that. No questions. So I'm hoping when that filters through a bit, hopefully things will start improving.
I think it is getting better. There's some companies that I work with that really are trying to do their best to like sort of leaving no stone unturned, but they don't shout about it. And why would they? Because they're just doing what they believe is right. And that's probably why I'm working with them and asking me to help, because they want to do the right thing. But then, yeah, some of them are just so far behind. There seems to be, they're either amazing or rubbish. There's kind of not a middle ground, really.
There is. Do you find it difficult to ask for those sort of adaptations when you're going out, or like, could you give anyone any advice, like how to approach sort of asking for adaptations if it's not there already?
I used to feel really guilty. I used to feel like I was taking it from someone else, especially things like the airport wheelchair and stuff like that, because I could do it. I could do the journey, I could walk, but actually the knock-on impact it would have on my holiday, on what I'm doing after that is huge. And I ended up just realizing that actually sometimes you have to do these things to make the rest of your journey easier. It was someone that kind of turned around to me and was like, yeah, but actually, if you've broken your leg, you would get that support. So if it's going to help you, then why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you ask for those things? And I definitely find it easier to ask via message and via online than phoning someone and trying to explain it. And I would say that's an adaptation that I've done on a day-to-day basis when I'm trying to get accessibility or trying to ask things. I kind of have a standard message now that I send out that explains what my illness is, explains what my kind of adaptations are that I might need, and then ask for that support. And that then takes some of the stress away for it from.
I
Yeah.
also, Melissa, sorry to interrupt you. Do you I mean, I do. All right, I'm older than you are, but I'm still not old. But if I get like the chairs from the airport or things like that, the train, people look at you. The older people look at you and say, "Well, why's she in that? She's got crutches there. She could walk. Why didn't she use the crutches?" And blah, blah, blah. My husband, he's an amputee, ex-forces, and he's the same. When he was younger, older people used to look at him. We're parking in a blue badge space and say, why do you need that?
And they got a shock
And
when he got out of the car.
luckily they did. He just used to hold his leg up.
Aaron's smiling because he's been in that experience as well. So,
Yeah, just used to hold his leg up. It was really funny. They need it we need it for our mobility. They need it because of their age and mobility, so why look down on us instead of trying to help everybody else?
Well,
'Cause
there's that. It's also that black and white thinking, isn't it? It's like my friend was a social work student, and when she was on placement, she was told by the person who was running the unit she was working on, as far as I'm concerned, you do the same as everyone else or you're on the sick. And it's like,
well, I'll go on the sick then.
yeah. It's like a whole world in between.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Just let me educate you.
Time it's that perceived stigma. Like for me, it's the confidence to be able to ask for something and advocate for myself. And that's been a huge learning curve over the past few years because actually, as well, some of the hardest people to advocate to are the people closest to you. Uh, I'm not meaning kind of really, really close, but kind of your friends that are slightly removed and don't really understand what's happened or don't really understand quite what's needed because especially with me, one minute I could be absolutely fine, and then the next I'm in bed, and people just assume that maybe you're putting it on. And a lot of that is in your head. A lot of that is you being like, oh, people are thinking this, or people are
Is
judging
it though?
you.
Because my boys don't realise I'm as bad as I am because I try and be all right when I'm round them. They're older, they're like 28, 30 now, but they don't realise I am as bad as I am.
family members, they'll just be like, "Oh, but you've done this before. You went and done this." I'm like, "But you didn't see the preparation it took for me to do that, or the days that I spent in bed broken afterwards." Because yeah, I may have done something for the weekend and powered through for 2, 3 days in a row, but then I'm absolutely broken. And I said, "You don't realize the amount of also medication I'm on at the time of doing it. Like, you could probably rattle me and I'd be like shaking out pills everywhere. You know, it's very easy for them to like look and judge in different ways. But then I get it in the other sense when I take my son out, the amount of people that all kind of I get the comments of like, "Oh, but he doesn't look disabled," or I was like, "Well, he's autistic. He's almost non-verbal." Like, and I try and manage situations for him, and yet the way people react to things sometimes is just disgusting. I got a train once, and our tickets booked. It's happened a few times because I've known Sharon and Karen about it. I'm really good at booking train tickets that get double booked. Happens to me
Oh,
so often. And it's always on LNER as well for some reason, but always coming back from London. And I had one couple, I had a guy literally shouting in our faces how we should get out the seat. We'd already been on the train for like an hour. And he's like, "No, we've got them booked. I showed him my tickets and everything." And he was adamant that he wanted the seats. And I was like, "I'm not making my son move. If it was just me, I'd have probably just moved for the piece of it because,
no,
it's easier."
you pay for it.
Oh, I don't like confrontation. When he's there, it's really weird. I don't like to have a confrontation, but it's like, I'm also gonna kind of fight for him. I will fight for him more than I'll fight for myself, to be fair.
Yeah, I understand that.
Uh, and like the guy even went and got the person off the train, like one of the conductors on the train, to try and get me to move the seat. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, and the guy just apologized to him and was like, "You'll have to sit somewhere else," to the guy and his wife. But yeah, it was mental.
Now, I've been known to actually, if somebody's in a disabled parking, I'm being known actually to park behind them so they can't get out if they don't have a badge.
We'll do that.
Somewhere.
Mm.
Gotta park your car somewhere.
You do. But, these car parks are private, so they can't enforce it. But yeah, I have been known to do it.
I'm going to put a different spin on this from the question that you said about, asking for adaptations when you go places. Now, in my experience, I find that most people are happy to help. You do, in all walks of life, you come across idiots, don't you? Just like, they don't want to help, they don't want to know, whatever. This goes back to my point on the companies that want to do everything and those that don't. But I also think some disabled people make it really, really tough and they give people a really hard time. Someone will be trying to help you and they will use slightly wrong terminology or something, and someone will get their knickers in a twist, go
Yeah.
absolutely mad about it, and then that person doesn't want to help anyone anymore because all over
Yeah.
social media shouting about how bad their experience has been, when actually they were just doing their best, and sometimes things go wrong, and that drives me potty. I hate that. I shouldn't have to do this, but I'm always trying to make people feel better about it. I'm like, "Thank you very much for helping me. This is really
Yeah.
good."
Thank you, I really
Whatever.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But some
cool.
people, like, I don't know, some disabled people just will go mad. They're like, "Oh my God, don't you know I'm disabled? I need all this stuff. You are ruining my life." It's like, really? They're
No.
not, are they? They're just trying to do their best. And then it messes it up for everybody else because then that person won't want to help anyone ever again.
I
There's
think
a
they're gonna
huge
keep doing the
difference.
same.
Yeah, huge difference between somebody's trying to help and made a bit of a mistake and someone's being a dick.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So a difference between needing something and entitlement. It's like I was in a meeting recently when everything that could have been done was done to be inclusive. Like so much was put in place behind the scenes before it started, letting people know what was going to be happening. And then someone complained that there was a handout after the session. Someone was like, "Oh, well, it's black on white paper. I want that on a colour." They didn't even say which colour it was. And it's like, okay, like, here is a free thing I use to tint my computer so then I can read things that are black and white. Oh, I shouldn't have to do that. And I was like, but it's a really simple thing that you can do rather than expecting the person to have the presentation in 15 different colours. Because, like, green would be great for me. For someone else, they might see, well, actually, I could see it better on yellow or pink or whatever else. You can't always do something that works for everyone. But to expect someone to sort of say, right, I'll completely redo that presentation just for this one person who hasn't even specified what it is they need, that's probably a bit much, especially as I said, they've done so much to include everyone.
Yeah, if they've done it and they've helped, they've done the best and they've tried to do it, that's massive, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I think going back to what you said, Aaron, as well, a lot of the time people want to help. And I think that's where what I was saying about advocacy comes in. If you're advocating for yourself and you're saying actually what they can do to help in advance and you're giving you the opportunity to help, I think often that's when it goes a lot smoother. If you're communicating with people and trying to explain to them so that they can do it to the best of their ability as well. I think that's where it has a real impact. And a lot of the time people want to help. So by actually going out of your comfort zone and asking for help in the first place can often reduce a lot of that problem on the day where maybe they're not equipped to do it because they didn't know in advance that they needed the ramp that day or whatever it might be that they could have actually got in. For instance, your example, Karen, if they'd have emailed ahead and been like, actually read better on XYZ, then I'm sure they would have put that adaptation in place if they're that type of company. So yeah, I think there's a balance between advocacy
Mm.
and entitlement
Yeah.
and supporting people that want to help
Yeah.
and actually scaring them from helping again.
Mm.
I mean, the point of like, it would be nice to see certain things that are just done. Everybody does it, that'd be great. But then there's still going to be those things that are specific to you and or different from somebody else. And I think no matter what, we're always going to have to advocate for those things. But yeah, if we can put the automatic things should be automatic and in place, just as daily life, and that'd be great. But you're still going to have to ask. Just to turn up and expect everything to magically be how you need it on things like that is entitlement. And I think it's a very silly place to go. Whereas I think on those bits, just get in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think it's also people sometimes looking to be offended by things. It's like you'll see, the angry person for the local newspaper, like there was a story and someone's like, you should be using person first language. And it's like, yeah, I remember NUS stopped using person first language in like 2001. You're a little bit behind, but okay, get offended by that if it makes you happy. And it's like, how can we consider a person with disabilities to be a person unless we use the word person first? And it's like, mate, if you can't consider someone to be a person without being reminded they're a person, there's bigger issues than the order the language is going in, as far as I'm concerned. But
It's
Ridiculous.
or sometimes I've had people being offended by asking questions and saying, well, what is there anything specific you'd need? Well, you should know. And it's like, well, not necessarily. Like someone was asking for a disabled ticket to Reading Festival. And I said, oh, do you mind if I ask the nature of the disability? Because some things catered for very well and some things aren't. You're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, for instance, if someone communicates in Makaton, the lighting is terrible. So, you'd not be able to see what someone was signing. Well, are you saying you'll not sell a disabled ticket? No, no, absolutely, I will. That's fine. I'm just sort of, as someone who's been there, well, my son doesn't like crowds. And it's like, oh,
So you're going to Red Festival?
yeah, maybe that might not work. So you're not so, I'll set you a ticket if you like, but you should be aware there are platforms, but they are in the middle of a crowd. Oh, well, and it's like they're not going to send everyone else home for one person. I'm
There's just some
sorry.
people you can do all you can to try and help them and accommodate them. They're just never going to be happy. They've always got something to moan about.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things where it's like, with the best will in the world, it's not going to work for me. And the
Yeah.
accommodations to make it work would be so ridiculous that I don't expect that to happen. But, on the other hand, if there's a simple thing that can be done, why not do it? Particularly as there's lots of things that help for one person that might help others, like, wider aisles in a shop. That could help wheelchair users, but also people with buggies or shopping trolleys, simple things like that can help so many people. Things like that. Do you know what? Do them.
Yeah. When we were discussing dyslexia in business, when Jackie found out that not only was the text they were using good for dyslexics, also really good for people with visual impairments. And so it's like, who else could this help, especially if it's something that's easy to implement?
Mm.
Has anyone got any last minute top tips? Something you found that's been really helpful in your business?
I think for me, knowing that people often want to help, having that discussion and being able to ask for help, I think there's a real art in being able to ask for help. I think we're programmed as humans to constantly think that you're fine and say that everything's okay. But actually, there's so many things that people can do that do support and do help. And there's so many things that you can do for yourself that makes it easier. And I think having patience with yourself and being able to find ways to advocate for yourself is so important, especially when you're running a business as a disabled entrepreneur.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that, to be honest, Melissa. You took the words out of my mouth. Apologise, by all means, yeah. Yeah, just make sure people are aware of what your issues are, and if you do need any help, you know,
Yeah.
don't
The other
say
thing is have a contingency plan. So I've got a contingency plan for everything. If I all of a sudden need to have a week off, I've got
mm,
plans in place that I've got a folder which has step-by-step guides. So if a family member needs to come in and pack my orders for me, they can literally go into the order packing Word document and that tells them exactly how to do it. I've got
got that
processes
wrong.
in place where it's like if I need to FaceTime my husband and show him what I need to do while I'm from bed, then I can do that. Automatic emails readily written to say that I'm off that week. So that yeah, at last minute, if I'm ill for any reason, I've got those plans in place and it stops that guilt and that stress.
You are
That's
very
a good
well
idea.
organised.
I
I don't
know.
know that. That is so organised. I don't even do lists,
It's
you
from
know.
past experience where I've been so ill that I can't do anything, but almost the stress and the guilt of not doing anything made me worse for longer.
Mm.
So after that
Yeah.
episode where I was so bad for so long because it was a vicious cycle where I kept beating myself up for not doing stuff and it ended up becoming a really vicious cycle. After that, I was like, I want to put these things in place so that I know it's there and there's no guilt. If I need to take a day off, I can take a day off. There's plans in place for that. And yeah, it's one of the biggest things that I recommend, especially on a healthy day, to put plans in place for unhealthy. If you've got a trade show coming up, put a contingency plan in place for afterwards and stuff like that. I used to be an event planner, so I think that's where that came from with wedding and event planning.
It's only me that can do what I do.
But there are ways that people can support. There's always ways around it, definitely.
They are, but the decorating, nobody else, there's only me and my husband, and then I have virtual, PAs. So there's only me that can do what I need to do, the decorating and the designing on the
Yeah.
stick. So unfortunately, if I'm ill, work stops play, or illness stops play, should I say.
Yeah. Even
I
having
find with that, being really honest with people that might happen, and then letting them know as soon as it does.
Yeah,
Exactly.
terms
But
and conditions.
I've had people saying to me, I need my stick, like we were saying before, the entitled people, the ones that are truly ill, the younger ones, they're saying, yeah, okay, I understand, you're ill, you need to take this time out and you need to be right. And then other people are like, no, I want my stick on this date, blah, 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 whatever. It's like, okay, I'll push myself to my grave then.
Well, I think it's worth having terms and conditions that allow buffer zones and say, um, I'll get an order out within X amount of time and leave plenty of buffer. Or I know people in their email signatures, I've seen it say, everyone in this company has a chronic illness. Thank you for your patience. It may take us a little longer to reply, but we are monitoring the inbox. We will get back to you. And it's sort of that instant thing that, oh, okay, you've put it positively and I
Yeah.
understand the situation. It's like, my first job, it was my first day for about 3 months. And if people know it's your first day, they'll go, okay, fair enough. Do you know what? And it's sort of that thing. If you get it right from the beginning and say, okay, this is the situation, this is how it is, and people may go, I'm not happy with that. That's fine. They can go somewhere else. But I think a lot of people, it just sort of clicks their brain into going, okay, I'll give a bit of leeway then.
Exactly. That's what I've got in my terms and conditions. I allow 28 days to 6 weeks, but in fact I can do it quicker.
Yeah.
I just leeway for my illness.
I used to have
And not
that when I had
right.
my personalised gift business. I'd be like, it would be, was it 7 to 14 working days
Mm.
before your order's going to be shipped? I could do it in less time. I had to have that buffer in case I was literally just
Or
stuck in bed for days and stuff like that. And, every day is just a surprise. You don't know how you're going to be.
no, true.
That's always the fun bit. Okay, so my last question: what would you like to see in future technology? Because it's all going a bit nuts these days, and apparently ChatGPT can organise your life, but what would you like to see as future aids or adaptations? Is there anything you particularly like?
There's the obvious stuff which is starting to happen anyway, isn't there? Like text to speech and things like that, which has been around a while, which used to be very, very specialist, isn't as much now. But it's things like I can see happening in front of me, like Snowball, the app, going to be like TripAdvisor for disabled people. Once that really truly kicks off, that's going to be game changing, because the things that we've been talking about, needing adaptations, once you know everywhere that is accessible, isn't accessible, then how much of a difference could that make to your life? So check out the Snowball app if you haven't already.
Didn't know about that one actually.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's well, yeah, exactly as I said. Imagine TripAdvisor, but disabled people, and it's
Yeah.
building up momentum all the time. So it's really worth looking at.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. I'll check that out.
I'm trying to think, yeah, what I would like to see. I think, yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? I think for me, I just wish people had more confidence and support. So it's not necessarily technology or anything like that. I wish there was more understanding
The
around.
human element.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm very integrated into AI, as you probably found out from last episode. I pretty much use it to run my life. Um, yeah, I suppose maybe that integrated more into kind of your everyday things, but also I don't want to lose that human element. I think that's really important.
It is. I agree with that, Melissa, to be honest, not losing the human element, but I think we're going to eventually. I'm probably not going to be here when it does happen, but I think eventually we will lose it, sadly.
I think we're underestimating the human race.
Mm.
I like to think that our personalities are who we are. And I think in business, particularly, people very much still buy from people. And I think AI can aid and AI can be used as an adaptation and a tool, but it can't replace the person behind the business. And I think yeah, I think it will make things a lot easier and it will make things a lot of stuff will be similar in terms of products. I think we'll lose some of the ingenuity behind it, but actually, I think people buy from people and that will always remain the same. We're empathetic beings. And yeah, personally, I think that's going to be a very long time till that changes. That was quite deep, wasn't it?
Was I
I need
I
to go and have
agree
a
with
nap.
you. People do buy from people, and it's seeing that personality of the people you're buying from. Even if you don't know them personally, you're just seeing about their business and them. You know, you kind of, in your own way, we do connect with them, and that's what makes us buy from them. Like, yes, I may use Amazon just because it's quick, it's next day delivery, but when it comes to even some of the stock things that I will get for my business, or even when it comes to doing things, buying things for family and friends, I do try and make a conscious effort to shop with a small business and to try and find something really unique that you can't just get from anywhere else because there's so much generic shit out there. There is something really unique and quite beautiful about that personal experience and just buying from a person.
And it's having that personal touch as well, or that customizable thing that might be an ADR adaptation, but then you know it's made for you. I think that helps.
Yeah, that's why I do obviously what I do. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pass back to Karen.
Yes, well, thank you to all three of you for being here. I'd just like to ask, is there anything you'd like to plug, promote, or let us know about? Let's go, Aaron, Melissa, Sharon. So alphabetical order of first names, because that's as good an order as any.
No, just I'm Aaron, a Paralympian. If you want to know more about me, I've got a website, aaronphipps.com. I spend most of my time talking about myself, doing motivational talks, plays up to my strengths because I like the sound of my own voice. But I've already mentioned Snowball, check that out as well. But thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I'm Melissa. As I said, I own Paws and Ernest, which is a dog enrichment company. It's really helped me build a better bond with my dog. And actually, the products that I make are adapted to be more accessible. And a lot of them were made for myself and then ended up being manufactured because people were wanting them. Yeah, if you want to check us out, we are on all socials pretty much as at Paws and Ernest. And our website is www.pawsandernest.co.uk. More than anything, though, I love talking to people. So reach out, pop me a message, even if you don't have a dog or want to talk about anything that's been spoken about over the last couple of episodes. I love to have a chat and I love connecting with people. So pop us a message.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Melissa. In fact, I have contacted Melissa because I've got 2 dogs. So yeah, I'm Sharon, and our website www.glamsticks.co.uk. I'm on all socials. Instagram is slightly different. It's Glamsticks Accessories. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on also LinkedIn. Check out pages because we do have various offers on throughout the month. And thank you so much for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you to all three of you. Thank you for your input and your ideas. It's great to just have some different perspectives on everything. And thank you to you at home for joining us for 3Spoonies on AIDS and adaptation in community and work. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. And please don't forget to subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a lovely review. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what we do. All the links mentioned will be in the show notes. We'll see you next week for our next episode, which is on dressing while disabled. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.